Hey, welcome back to the podcast. I am Justin Stacy.
And I'm Josh Matney. Um, where's Nate at? Isn't he supposed to be here?
It's weird. He decided that he wasn't going to join us tonight. I don't know. It's just what he said.
This is his movie choice.
Yeah, I don't know. It's hard to say with Nate. Honestly, it's hard to say what's going on with him.
Hello, hey Nate, where you at?
Can you please tell Justin to let me in the meeting?
He wants in the meeting, or
Tell Nate that I will let him in the meeting if he does the Truffle Shuffle.
you have to do the Truffle Shuffle, or you won't get in.
Do it.
Do the Truffle Shuffle.
I will not be embarrassed on this podcast. I will have you know. Either let me in or go without me.
Hold up. Just a minute. Real life me, you have embarrassed me because you don't own a flowered Hawaiian shirt, right? Well, leave it to me, old pal. Ladies and gentlemen, the Truffle Shuffle. Now, are you idiots pleased?
Yes.
Yes.
Great. Now let's get on with the show.
Okay, now I can add Nate to the meeting. Welcome back, Nate. Glad you could join us.
I'm glad to finally get in. Somebody, and they will remain anonymous, is abusing his authority.
Awesome tattoo, dude.
What? Excuse me?
Yeah.
Don't worry about it, Nate. All right, let's restart this thing. Welcome back to the podcast. I am Justin Stacy.
I'm Josh Matney.
I'm Nate Thomas.
All right, tonight we are talking about the Goonies. So this was a fun watch. I enjoyed this mostly because I just didn't remember anything about it, and I've definitely seen it once, but I did not more than once, and it was a fun watch. So I'm glad you chose it, Nate.
Oh yeah, it was a really good movie.
It's one of my favorite movies of all time. I'm not saying it's a cinematic masterpiece. It's just one of those movies. I just love it start to finish. I don't think there's a bad part of it. There are favorite parts of it, but nothing just stinks, in my opinion.
I just
Absolutely.
love the idea of just foul mouthed kids getting into trouble.
Yeah.
That's right.
That's
Although
that
It's
is such a fun.
so 80s.
80s foul mouth versus 2022 foul mouth, not even close.
That's true.
Like this movie could air on Disney today.
Yeah.
That's true. That's very true. Also, I just realized something today that 2 of the 3 movies that you've chose, Nate, has had Corey Feldman in it.
Oh, yeah. Good
Yeah.
catch.
Yeah. So apparently he's a favorite actor of yours.
I just think movies in the 80s were needing some Corey power. That's what it
That's
is.
right. That's right. All right. Well,
He was
let's
very much a kind of a sort of a horror icon because he was in quite a few little horror-esque shows and
You're right.
he was in a lot in the 80s. Yeah, absolutely was. All right. Well, let's get started. Sit back, relax, put your feet up as we open a bottle of pop culture.
Gonna talk about some really cool stuff. Well, Josh, Nate, and I, we're gonna blow this thing up. We're gonna talk about the movies you love. And if you don't, well, that's just tough. But we're gonna talk about shows that are awesome. You'll say, whoa! When we talking about Blossom. This will be your one and only stop for everything nerdy in a bottle of pop culture.
Okay, jumping right into it. I'm going to start with a synopsis. I have been very not consistent with this. I don't think I did it the last one. So doing it this time, I remembered. So here's the Google synopsis of the Goonies. old-fashioned yarn about a band of adventurous kids who take on the might of a property developing company which plans to destroy their home to build a country club. When the children discover an old pirate map in the attic, they follow it to an underground cavern in search of a lost treasure, but come up against plenty of dangerous obstacles along the way. That is a very generic
That is
synopsis.
terrible.
I like how bad Google
about-
synopsis are.
How about outcast kids have an unbelievable adventure? Stay tuned. How about a treasure hunt through the underwater part of Astoria? How about, I need 30 seconds to come up with a better, so that's terrible.
It is. That's why I like going to the Google, because it's so bad.
Oh, I quit.
Oh, goodness.
Now that I've blown out all of your speakers.
That's funny. All right, where do we want to get started with this?
I have to show some toys first.
Oh, that's a good point.
If you'll just humor me. As you know, I collect these things back here, but I'm pointing at myself, these things back here. So when the Goonies became available, there are several Goonie pops, but the three that I wanted were Mr. Data. Oh, that's from Star Trek. Data, which I love the detail with the boxing glove coming out of the jacket there.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Of course, I wanted Chunk. You also check it out.
Truffle Shuffle.
Truffle Shuffle, baby. I did, just for the record, look for one of these shirts last week, but they were way more expensive than the joke would have been worth. And
Yep.
of course, I had to get this guy. And I pointed out earlier to somebody, no Superman logo on his shirt.
Yeah.
Probably a licensing issue, but it's a cool looking figure, in my
Yeah.
opinion.
Yeah. Since you said that there is the ones that exist that do have the Superman logo, I would
think
bet.
it's a chase.
Okay, so the Superman one was. I wonder if they did that specifically because they knew they would need a chase figure and they wanted to make them different.
I'm going to
that's how
find
they
out.
I mean,
But
it could
has
have been
to
a
be.
lot. It could have been a licensing issue where they didn't have a license before, then they got it, and then they made the new one. But if they're going to do a chase and the chase is supposed to be more limited, then I bet the Superman symbol was like, "That's what we're going to do."
Yeah.
Right. Maybe I'm wrong. Well, I hate to say those words.
Uh-oh.
There are
Uh-oh.
several Sloth pops. Oh,
Mhm.
there is one with the Superman shirt. It is a chase. It's worth $700. Well, almost $700.
Wow.
So now listen, the most I've
Wow.
ever spent on a pop is a autographed Hulk Hogan pop, and that one I only paid $120 for. I'm not paying $670 for one.
Holy
Not for
crap.
just a fun hobby.
Wow.
And we're totally off
120
the
bucks
rails.
is pretty steep as well. But
Well, yeah, I figure Hulk Hogan's getting old and he's going to die one day and it'll
It will be
skyrocket
worth
and
more.
I'll sell it.
Yeah.
I hate to say it that way.
yeah, to the moon.
I'm afraid so. And I don't want that to happen. I like the guy. I am a Hulkamaniac. Not important. But that's my theory about the Sloth pop. And it's worth nothing now. I just dropped it.
What you
about
gonna
that
do, brother?
I can't believe I dropped it. Nobody went, drop. Sorry.
What? All right. Good stuff.
That's the podcast for tonight.
That's it. That's all the time we have.
I really liked how I definitely see a lot of influence of the Goonies in the current It movie that came out a couple years ago.
Exactly.
The kids, I was like, because everybody kept, I remember like when it came out, people kept saying like this is just like Goonies. I'm like, well, didn't they sort of come out around the same time, the book and the movie?
The book, it came out in like 1986 or 87.
Yeah, so a
Stephen
lot of
King
that was
says-
kind of a thing in the 80s to begin with. So
Oh yeah.
but I did not realize like the people that played in this, Joe Pantoliano, I didn't realize he was in this. Sean Astin, I didn't know he was in this. Of course, I knew Corey Feldman was in it. And Josh Brolin.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, wow. I'm surprised I never saw this before because, I mean, I don't know. Like, this is a pretty good
So-
cast.
Here's a fun fact. When I was watching this, because I mean I knew Josh Brolin was in it, so I was expecting him, but I wasn't expecting Sean Astin. I didn't remember that he was in it. And when I seen him, first, you know, in the movie, I was like, wait a minute. I'm familiar with this face. Who is this? I know this face. And then I went to Internet Movie Database because that's what I always do.
Me too.
And I'm like, oh my God, it's Sam.
I mean,
Samwise Gamgee.
let's just take a sidestep. Sean Astin. If he was only ever in the Goonies, he's a legend because that movie is a classic.
Mhm.
He goes from that, he's Rudy.
Yeah.
I mean, come on,
Okay.
Rudy's one of the best
remember
sports
Rudy.
movies ever. He's
Yeah.
in the Lord of the Rings trilogy, which will go down as an all-time classic.
Mhm.
Plus, he's been in a million other movies. He was in the second season of Stranger Things. He was in 50
That's
First
true.
Dates with Adam Sandler and Drew Barrymore. I mean,
love
he
that.
has. I mean, those are just a few.
Right.
He's iconic at this point.
Yeah.
That's true. He's a household name.
Yeah.
Then you have Thanos.
Thanos. Good time.
Like, you know, I didn't realize Josh Brolin's dad was an actor as well.
Oh yeah, James Brolin's married to Barbara Streisand.
One of the first movies I
Wow.
ever saw him in was I think it was called The Cart. It was a devil possessed, pretty much like Christine, but I think
Okay.
it came out before Christine. But it's pretty much legit a car from hell, and it's just terrorizing this town. So kind of a B-rated cheesy horror film from the late 70s, maybe early 80s.
I never heard of that one.
Yeah, it's very. I think it's more of a cult film than it was a mainstream film. But this, but to the Goonies though, this was a fun movie. Like I would say, if I had to make a list of like favorite 80s films, this is like top 5 easily for me.
Oh,
Maybe 10. I mean,
oh. If I stay away from the big budget stuff like Star Wars, Indiana Jones, Star Trek, you know, it's definitely in there for me.
which
It
I'm
might
a
be in my
Steven
top 10 or
Spielberg
15
fan.
all time. Yeah.
Yeah. So like anything with Steven Spielberg's name on it, I'm kind of been a fan of for a long time.
Absolutely.
So I'm a big fan of the location that they filmed most of the movie in. Like just the look of it, the seaport with the lighthouses and stuff. I love that type of look. I thought it was in New England. It turns out it was in Oregon.
Yeah. Astoria, right?
Yeah, and
I
they
think so,
actually
yeah.
have like movie airings every year or
Mhm.
something like that to celebrate the anniversary of the film.
Don't
kinda
they show
do-
that in Kindergarten Cop back to back? It was also in Astoria, right?
Maybe.
I think
Maybe.
it was. In fact, I'd put money on it that it was.
Yeah.
Wow. That's pretty cool. But yeah, I mean, it does seem that a lot of 80s movies just has the group of loner boys.
Mhm.
Like we talked about that in the Ninja Turtles podcast.
It's such a
It's the same
theme.
thing.
Yeah,
It's a big theme. Yeah.
because we had Lost Boys, and of
Uh-huh.
course almost any of course Stephen King film from the 80s that involves kids getting together. This
You
You
had,
had Monster Squad, you had
Monster
Time
Squad.
Bandits, you had remember
Stand
that
By
movie
Me.
about the video games,
Stand
The
By-
Wizard, Stand By
Mhm.
Me, the trope of the miscast or misfit, that is, excuse me, boys. It'd be popular today. They could still
yeah.
do it. Well, they do.
Right.
Stranger Things is a huge
Stranger
show,
Things is
and
basically
it's
that.
largely about those outcast boys.
Also, I find it interesting that in the 80s, it seems like you're probably going to have one main girl character, and she's going to have red hair. Like that, like the what was that? 16 Candles. She had red hair,
Molly
right?
Ringwald.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, Molly Ringwald.
Yeah.
And in Stranger Things, the girl, that one girl has red hair, right?
Oh yeah.
It's a thing.
It's terrible. They're always the villain. I'm just kidding.
Let me just say this. I love
Let
this
me
movie,
just say.
but the whole these criminals are terrible at their job.
Well,
They're dumb criminals. That was the character, though. I don't think you were ever meant to think that these were ever going to get away with anything.
they were idiots. Their mother was the brain. Mama Fratelli.
Yeah.
Come on,
Yeah.
that lady was awesome. I don't care what you say. She was awesome.
Speaking of her, did you all recognize her and what other movies she was in the 80s? It may have been early 90s.
Could it be?
I
It's
think
either Throw Mama for the Train or Planes, Trains, and Automobiles.
it could have been either. I have seen neither one of those. The movie I was thinking of is Pee-wee's Big Adventure, and
But-
she
oh,
was
the
Marge.
trucker.
Yeah.
She was Marge.
Large Marge.
See, I don't care for Pee Wee's Big Adventure, so that's not my connection.
Okay, yeah,
I love that movie.
I'm a huge Pee Wee Herman fan back in the
Yeah.
day.
Oh, that's cool.
Random
It just
fact
wasn't my
about
thing.
Pee Wee Herman. Don't. It's so weird that I know this, but of course Lawrence Fishburne made an appearance on the show.
Yeah.
Also, Rob Zombie had a job on the set as I think one of the set designers or something. So that was one of his first
Really?
jobs. Yeah. So he worked for Pee Wee's Playhouse.
That's impressive.
Yeah. I think it was like during the White Zombie era, or maybe it was before the White Zombie era. But yeah, like I don't know. I mean, just random fact there.
But a good random fact. So I tell you why I think the Goonies stands up today. I keep putting my arm on the table and it's shaking the computer. Forgive me. I think it stands up today as a classic. And look, it's 40 years old. You know, it's got some. You can see the year it was made.
Mm-hmm.
What group of boys didn't always dream about going on an adventure, a treasure hunt, solving mysteries, finding buried treasure, fighting off the villains? This is every adolescent boy's fantasy. The hero, Mikey, made out with the girl. Now, you can make the argument that it's all in his head. It wasn't in the movie, but you could make that argument that everything came up Mikey.
Yeah. And this was such and none of the characters were like disliked. The characters were likable.
They were
All of
great.
them were likable.
And the chemistry between the boys, like they get into like arguments with each other. It's hilarious.
That's what I love about this movie is that you're not getting a fluff piece, or you're not trying to make the boys look too adult, which I feel like is a lot of what happens in today's kids shows, even Stranger Things and stuff. You're not getting a lot of, these are just kids and they're acting like kids.
Yeah.
In today's time, it's everybody's acting like an adult, even if they're a kid. But these boys, that's what kids that acted like then, and much worse today, I'm sure. But you're getting a real picture of what boys, they're bullying each other, they're calling each other names, they're cursing, all that stuff. That's legit.
Don't you and your buddies cut on each other now?
Sure.
My buddies and I, when we hang out, we're terrible to each other.
Absolutely.
I mean, we don't curse at each other, and we don't.
Right.
But we pick at each other. That's
jabs. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
I mean, I
mischief,
feel like we do a little bit of that here.
Yeah. And the mischief, like Corey Feldman's character telling the maid, like, there's drugs in the drawers. There's put the cocaine in the marijuana.
That was some of the funniest parts. You know who the maid reminded me of?
Consuela from Family Guy.
Yes. Is that where? I wonder if that's where the inspiration come from for Consuela.
Well, probably because everything
looks
Seth
just
MacFarlane
like her.
ever watched, he's ripped off. So probably, boom.
It looks just like
baby.
her. A lot of Seth MacFarlane love on this podcast.
I actually don't mind Seth MacFarlane, and he would admit a lot of his stuff is based off stuff he was a fan of.
Well,
Oh yeah.
I mean, and that's fair. Like, nothing's completely original.
Not anymore.
Not
There's
anymore.
no such thing.
No.
Like, I love the idea of you're in the attic. You break a picture of your family. There's a treasure map, and you're telling the legend of One Eyed Willy, which, let's be honest, a group of adolescent boys talking about One Eyed Willy is questionable. I'm not going to dive into that, but there's not a one of us that didn't recognize that.
Yeah.
The other meaning there for young men. That's as dirty as I'll get. And then they follow the clues. They find the trail. They escape the villains. I mean, it's just, I can't say enough good. The chemistry, I'm like you guys, the chemistry of the characters is unbelievable.
And
it absolutely
this was such like, I mean, I know it was like set in Estonia, and it looks good and all that. I mean, I will say, like, the fact that they found the place so easily, I'm like, but
how was it not found before?
Yeah, but I'm like, it's still silly. It's fun. I love it.
Yeah, a lot of it wasn't believable per se, but
Yeah.
it's just a fun movie. It wasn't supposed to be.
Right.
You don't take it too seriously. Honestly, I think what really made the movie for me, I mean, Mouth. I love that character. I really, he was hilarious. But Chunk, that what was his real name?
Chunk.
Cohen, Jeff Cohen.
Jeff Cohen's the actor.
Yeah, the actor. So Chunk, that's an Oscar-worthy performance from him.
Well,
I think it was like that is the best kid acting I've ever seen.
My favorite scene with Chuck is when the Fratelli brother has him and is threatening him. He's like, "You gotta tell me all the,"
Yes,
and he tells
Start
him
at the
every
beginning.
bad
Start
deed
at the
he ever
beginning.
every
did.
bad thing he's ever done.
There was this
Hilarious.
one time. I also like the villain that sings in Italian.
Oh,
When I
Yeah.
love that, so over the top singing in it. It's just great.
So speaking of the Fratelli boys and their mom, I feel like I've seen this before in something else. And I don't know if it's just a trope of mobsters where you have two knucklehead boys who's Italian and they're mobsters, and then they have a very smart, intelligent mom who's running things. And I'll tell you where exactly I know it from: the Andy Griffith Show. There was an episode where Barney is trying to get a vehicle, and he gets it from this lady, this old lady, Mrs.
Yeah.
Dash. Mrs. Dash, I
Yeah.
believe is her name. And she has two mobster sons, and they're running this criminal enterprise. And it's the same thing. Like they're knuckleheads, and she's very intelligent. It's the same thing. So that's what it reminded me of.
Yeah, I hadn't put that together, but I've seen that episode of the Andy
Yeah.
Griffith Show. That's
Uh-huh.
good.
yeah. I mean, I can, the whole mother and the two knucklehead brother. I'm thinking of like some of those old like Disney shows, like Cruella de Vil, like the knucklehead duo.
That's true.
Cruella, and like I think it was the Rescuers series. One of them had like henchmen that were knuckleheads, and just like I don't
It's
know,
a
it
funny
definitely
trope.
was a thing. Yeah, but it was
Mhm.
it was a fun trope.
It is.
Something else that I found out about this film, apparently there were some subplots or B stories about gorillas, and then there was like stuff.
There
Like,
what
was
a
that
giant
about?
octopus. They have scenes on the DVD, deleted scenes with a giant octopus around the ship. If you notice at the end of the movie, Data goes, "The octopus was scary."
Mhm.
That
Nobody
was, like,
says
such
a word because they shot the scenes of an octopus getting after him and them escaping from it. And the octopus ends up letting the ship get loose in the deleted.
Yeah,
So
like I
I've
was
never
so confused about that, and I was like, octopus. I went
I,
back.
I was too. Now I have a friend who claims. Now I've never seen this on TV, like a TV airing of this, but he claims that the TV airing of this includes the octopus scene.
He's convinced himself that that's true, but it's not.
Right.
Everything you read says that it's never been aired that way because the scene's not finished.
Yeah,
Right.
I'm not saying he's telling you a lie.
I'm sure
We're all
that
convinced.
in the DVD extra credits or the extras, it's there. I'm sure. But
I did
It
read
is-
that there was a television edit of the show. Like something was taken out because they thought it was too much for television. I don't know what that would have been, but like there was like a grocery store scene that would lead up to Troy like running Josh Brolin's character off the
Yeah.
road. Like it kind of like the beef kind of started there, and so that was
Sure.
like Troy getting back at him or something like that. But I
Right.
think that was never in like the actual theatrical version, but it was in like a rare television airing.
yeah,
I can't remember what was taken out though for them to do that.
Yeah, I would bet that they took a lot out just for time's sake, and that's probably one of the things. I think I watched the same YouTube video that was talking about that, and it said that scene just didn't, other than making Troy a little bit better of a character because he's kind of getting back instead of just being a douche.
Right.
It didn't serve the purpose because the purpose really was to show that Troy was a douche.
Yeah.
So let's take it out, make him worse than that.
Troy's a villain.
Yeah.
He's a villain in the movie.
Back to something you brought up, Josh, is the gorilla thing. That apparently was a huge subplot in the original script that Spielberg had come up with, and that he was apparently a big proponent of this scene. Like he wanted it. And
Oh, wow.
and it was when they were underground in the caverns and they had the pipes, and then Sloth was basically, tugging on the pipes, and it was screwing with stuff, up in the town. You remember
Up in
that?
the zoo.
Yeah, it had like the golf course and the
Yep,
water
yep,
tower
right.
thing. Yeah.
So the original idea was that in the zoo, that somehow when he tugged on the pipes, it would release
Yeah.
the apes. Then the apes would get out, and throughout the rest of the movie, you're going to see random scenes of the apes doing crazy stuff like stealing a vehicle,
Right.
and whatever. And I've seen pictures, so they've at least shot the scenes to where they did that. They, and they had people in gorilla suits. They even used gorilla suits from a movie in the 80s, and I can't think, it wasn't like Planet of the Apes. It was something else, and that bombed in the box office. I can't think of the name of what it was, but it was a failure, and they wanted to reuse those suits just to get some use out of them.
Right.
So they used those suits, pretty decent looking suits.
Mhm.
And then, when they shoot everything and whatever, they up and decide maybe last minute that, hey, the final scene, which ends up being they shot in California on a beach side. So when the pirate ship was going out and they're all on the beach side, apparently that was in California. And the original idea was to have the final scene back in Oregon, in the town. And the gorillas were going to show up there.
Huh.
And because they changed the location of the final scene, and so the gorillas don't fit in there, then they decided we're just going to take the gorillas out completely. So that kind of got the axe of the whole gorilla subplot, which is hilarious. Like, I would have loved to have seen this gorilla subplot.
I wonder if there's like footage
IMDb
that is
says that
good.
when it used to be aired on TV, they included the octopus scene. I've never read that. I always read that it hadn't been included.
There you go.
So I have to apologize. I was wrong. And I'll admit,
there you
I'm a big enough man to admit when I was wrong. I would have sworn I had always read that it was never included. My
I didn't
bad,
read.
fellas.
Interesting.
Like something with like the octopus, it just always looked so fake to them, so they just scrapped it, or like it just didn't. And it was, and honestly, like if Stan Winston was part of it, I feel like they could have done it. But like this is kind of early on with a lot of the practical stuff for that type of movie. But yeah, I guess it looked too fake or something.
I think that was it. But I've seen the footage online of it, and it is fake. It's cheesy, but who cares? Like this movie, it doesn't matter.
Right.
Oh. So the ship that was used in this movie was a recycled version of Pirates of the Caribbean ship from Disneyland.
I can see that.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
So I thought that was an interesting fact.
And the kids didn't know the ship was going to show up either. So
Or they'd never seen it.
Yeah. So like when it actually appeared, I think that's really their expression of of amazement.
It was.
So that was kind of cool.
That is kind of cool.
Well, Steven Spielberg's producing the movie. Richard Donner directs the movie.
Mm-hmm.
Richard Donner, who directed the original Superman and most of the second Superman and other movies. Those are just my favorites by him. They knew what they were doing.
That's probably why Sloth had a Superman shirt on.
Makes sense.
There was also like an alternative ending with Sloth, like becoming like they were accepting Sloth into Chunk's family, but they
they adopt him in the novelization.
Yeah, that's and I guess there was a scene where like he's wearing like one of Chuck's kind of shirts or whatever, and he's like at a family something.
Yeah.
And I mean, it looks like they shot it, but they just never did put it in the film or something.
Yeah, I was reading that's kind of, I don't know if you call it a plot hole, but it was interesting that at the very end, Chunk just tells him, "Hey, we're adopting you. You're going to live with us now." Yeah. Like, when did you ask your parents about that?
Well, I think we established early on Chunk didn't play by the rules. Chunk is a man not bound by topical traditional conviction. He does what he wants. He's a man on the run.
That's right.
He's not even my favorite character, but he's fun to talk about.
Yeah.
I love like when he opens up the ice cream like the ice cream freezer, and he's like trying to, and then that body just falls out, and
he totally missed the body to begin with.
Haven't we all been there? Haven't we all walked into a freezer to get something and the dead body falls on us and we panic?
Happens all the time.
Am I the only one?
It's just so fun. Like him and Mouth has such a crazy like chemistry, like Mouth making fun of him to break the door open.
Yeah.
It's like, I got pictures of your mom. He's like, oh my gosh.
I love the mom jokes in this.
Oh,
Also, I love that Chunk is so clumsy, and that's just a running gag in this thing. He's going to break something. You know that.
Go ahead.
ahead.
I don't remember growing up. None of my buddies, we didn't really have nicknames like that. Like my name is Nathan.
Huh.
I go by Nate. That's barely a nickname.
Mhm.
Like I don't have any friends, and I'm like Mouth, Data, Chunk, Sloth. Also, I would have been Chunk in my group, and I don't want to be called Chunk.
I don't think I had nicknames either
Yeah.
with my friends. At one point, some of them called me Jut, like Jut, Jut, and I don't even remember the reason why. But it didn't stick very long. I mean, they did it for a while, and so I think it's always been Justin. Now, I can tell you, in my workplace, we have a problem. We have a ton of Justins.
Yep.
In the same teams, right? So we have to come up with ways to figure out which Justin you're talking about. So I go by Stacy, Justin Bowling goes by Bowling, and then the other Justin goes by Justin.
I refer to you as Stacy half the time, and I've not spent that much time with you.
Yeah. And it's funny because I've never went by Stacy before. No one's ever called me Stacy before, but here recently, in the recent, present, more people is calling me Stacy, and I'm perfectly fine with that. That's a good last name.
It is. It's solid. I mean, it's
I've
your
always
last name. What are you gonna do?
mainly went by my last name through like high school, college, and workplaces, just because there was like so many Joshes, wherever you was at. And it was just like, I think mainly through work is like, I don't think I ever went by like Josh.
Yeah. So here's another fun fact.
Yes.
The Data, the actor who played Data, he was such a good disciplined kid that when he was shooting his scenes, he has a line that is basically holy shit.
Yeah.
And all the other kids have already cursed up to this point, it seems like. He's the only one that spells it out. Holy shit. And he does it because he knows his mom's going to watch this.
And he promised her he wouldn't curse or something.
He promised he would not curse to his mom, and he got that line, so he had to spell it out. That's great. I love that.
That's still kind of hilarious because it's like the kid trying to be like,
Yeah.
I gotta be a good kid, but holy shit, but it's like his way of getting away with it.
It's amazing, and he was such a good character. Like I loved
that dude
Data.
was in Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. That dude's a classic actor.
Oh my
from
gosh,
the
he
80s,
was.
based
I was
on
trying to
those
figure out
films.
where else I seen him at.
He's been in
and I was
other
like,
stuff, of course.
yeah.
I love that he was basically Inspector Gadget in this.
Right. Except his stuff worked most of the time.
Yeah.
That's true. The boxing glove did come up and punch him at one point.
That was a very that jacket hid a lot of things for
He has a lot of things to be in that jacket.
it's like those cartoons where the stuff just keeps coming out of the jacket. It's like all
That's right. That's right.
Cute. I like it. I approve. I
that
could
in
watch
the
it again
pocket.
tonight and not be bored.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And
I
you know,
did
it's like I'm surprised they never tried to like really expand on the Goonies. Was it like it was a very financial successful movie?
It was a
Like,
huge success. And there was a Goonies 2 video game for the original Nintendo
oh,
where you threw Molotov cocktails at villains. If I'm remembering right. But I don't know if they didn't want to shoot a sequel, if they couldn't do it, if the cast didn't want to, I don't know.
yeah,
But I also kind of like that it's a standalone.
yeah, that is.
Mhm.
I
That's true.
kind of like that. The Goonies, can you imagine like Goonies 4, Goonies in New York? I mean, that's not
No.
cool.
No,
The
I feel like
Goonies.
yeah, I totally agree. Like that would have just, I feel like it would have taken the spirit away from.
It
yeah.
cheapens it, in my opinion. I'm sure you guys know this. Cyndi Lauper, who was like Madonna before Madonna came along,
Mm-hmm.
had a song on the soundtrack, Goonies Are Good Enough.
Mm-hmm.
You kept hearing it during the movie because that's what they used to do in the 80s. When a song was about the movie, like in the Rocky movies, Eye of the Tiger is in the Rocky 3. All
Mhm.
the songs by Survivor are in Rocky 4. That's just a few examples. But I mean, that's an old thing they used to do in movies. I thought it was interesting. I'd noticed it before, but never had to comment on it.
That's interesting.
Random
That is
fact
interesting.
about that. Didn't her? I think I watched this on YouTube when I was looking up stuff on the Goonies. Like, didn't her music video have like the actual octopus scene in
Yeah,
it?
the octopus in the video. Can I have that sentence back? The octopus is in the music video. Well, I guess Huh?
See, the music video can be cheap. It's fine. It's only going to be on MTV, but
Right.
Well, not now. It wouldn't be.
no.
Now it would be
So-
on like something else.
Do y'all know where the term Goonies come from?
I don't
Mm.
now. I read it at one point, but I can't remember it.
So apparently that is sort of slang for people who live on these oceanside dock neighborhoods with the lighthouses and stuff. They're called the Goondocks.
Oh,
And the Goonies is just of the people who live in the Goondocks, and that's obviously a play on the Boondocks. Right? So,
right.
yeah,
Nice.
so I thought that was kind of fun.
I want to be a Goonie. I've already decided.
That's
When
right.
I grow up, that's what I want to be. It's probably never going to happen at this point. But it's for me, Goonies goes down as one of those rite of passage movies.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, I'm a little older than you guys, so I know we're gonna have different chances. Like the Goonies goes down as one of those movies. Like when I was growing up, my buddies and we all liked the movie. It changed a little bit in the 80s because everybody wanted to watch the Terminator, but it was rated R, so we had to catch it when our parents didn't know.
Mhm.
I mean, but there were some of those movies. They're rite of passage movies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
This
need
was
to come
like
up with a
such
list
a-
of those.
This was like a great era of movies. Like it just hit really well because of course, you had Goonies, Monster Squad, The Lost Boys, E.T., Predator.
Yeah,
Like,
this
it
was after
just-
ET.
Like this hit like some good, this is pretty, and it's like almost all iconic.
Yeah, I agree.
I love 80s movies that don't rely on too much, CGI
Mhm.
type things. That's when it really starts killing me. And that's why I didn't care for Star Trek a lot. Star Trek, listen to me. What am I, Southern? Star Trek.
Oh, Star Trek.
Yeah. You get what I'm saying? But yeah, it's because I just can't get over the bad CGI, the dated CGI. It's just
Mhm.
hard. I can't watch old Doctor Who for the same reasons. But
Now,
so I
can
appreciate
watch-
movies like this.
Now I can watch some movies that are like, what do you call them? Like it's stop motion animation. I can watch those because I know it's kind of I kind of appreciate stop motion animation. Like, those old like creature features from the 70s, schlock
Mhm.
films. Like I can appreciate those.
Yeah.
But I mean, I totally with you though. Like practical effects is where it's at. And I mean, we've preached that a lot throughout
We
this.
have, and I much prefer, even today,
Mhm.
give me practical effects over CG.
Yeah.
100% all the time.
There was a movie that came out some years ago and I complained. I mean, I didn't watch it, but like I just saw the trailer. I thought it was trash from the beginning. And I just remember my sister being like, "Oh my gosh, don't make fun of it." I'm like, the whole entire trailer, the dog is CGI. There's not one scene where the dog is like a legit real animal. I'm like, they couldn't afford a dog to show up on
Yeah.
set.
I actually know what you're talking about because I had the same complaint, and I forget what movie it was, but it looked like a real dog. You could
Mhm.
have got a real dog.
It wasn't
This
like
is
yeah. It had Harrison Ford in it, and it had a very common type dog. It wasn't like they couldn't. And
Yeah.
it seems like one of those dogs that would be easy to train for movies like this. But yeah,
I don't know.
But that's a side story for another time, I guess.
I think you guys just made it up. I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, they never use CGI for anything.
I'm telling you, I've never seen a movie with a special effect.
That's right.
I go to watch the next Marvel movie, No,
Or
the
Obi-Wan Kenobi, which comes out tomorrow.
all
can't
the
wait.
money went, all that special effects money went to Obi-Wan Kenobi and not She-Hulk. That's what happened.
She-Hulk will look fine when it comes out.
It'll be fine.
I mean, I'm not working tomorrow, so I will be watching Obi-Wan in the morning. Okay.
Yeah,
Sorry.
there's two episodes, so I'm gonna.
The dog
definitely
comes
watch
over
them
and
all.
lets me know he wants attention, No, I just think there are movies as we talk about them, like the Goonies is one. If I ever had children, it would be one when they're 5, 6 years old. I want them to watch.
Oh yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, you can explain away a little bit of bad language, and there's really not much in the movie.
Not much.
No,
I mean-
and for a PG movie at the time, I feel like this was definitely pushing towards if they had I don't know if they had the PG-13 rating
I
yet, but
don't
like,
know the timeline. Yeah.
but this definitely was pushing
Okay.
the PG, like, because like some of the scenes probably would. I mean, I didn't get, obviously, like I don't think they're really scary, but like for a young kid, they're like,
Well, look at the
okay.
scene where they're threatening to cut Chunk open.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's intense enough.
But like it was
Yep.
such a fun movie. And this is like you say, like I can definitely see me pulling this out to watch with Corbin and being like, hey, like it's just a fun movie.
That's true.
Yeah, I love it's absolutely in my top. I have to think about it. It's easily in my top 15 or 20 movies of
Mhm.
all time. And by my top, I mean my favorites.
Mm.
Right.
If I have to pick the greatest movies of all time, it's probably not in there, but I pick my favorites. That's
Yeah.
how I judge greatness.
Yeah. Agreed. All right, good stuff. Now let's move on to what we're going to talk about for the season finale. We've got
Pressure's
one more
on, Matney.
episode left, and Josh, this is you, so you're on the
Make it a
hook.
good one.
Make it a good one,
Don't screw up.
because you know if you
pressure's on,
don't, what's
buddy.
going to happen?
If you
you
pick
know-
a wrong one, you're going to be flayed in the public square.
I think
That's
we
right.
should watch the Transformers movie.
Yes.
Which one?
Yes.
I knew it would get to Nate, so no, I'm not really picking that.
No, which one?
All of them.
All the
I've
Michael Bay
seen-
ones.
I've
All the
seen
Michael
them
Bay
all.
ones.
The first one remains what I think is a good movie. The
It
second,
has to be the
third
one
were
with
easy
the
to
really
follow.
outdated jokes. The second one, I guess, maybe.
Yeah.
Oh,
They
I
got
really,
worse as they went on.
I really thought about this one because, like, I was talking to Justin. I do want to talk about Child's Play, so I think I'm going to stick with Child's Play. It can either be the first one or second one. I can talk about either one.
You want to talk
Like-
about both? We've done double
I mean,
movies.
we can if you want. If not,
My,
then,
I mean, I think I like the second one probably more than the first. I think there's more,
do.
right?
I surely do.
but I don't think it's fair to just talk about the second one. I
Right.
think the first one it's iconic, right?
Mhm.
So, my preference is to do both. If but it's
Yeah.
up to you. It's your pick.
So yeah, we'll do both. Because I mean, I love these films. I mean, with the exception of Seed, but like, almost every one I can rewatch and enjoy. I mean, I got the movie, the Blu-ray collection on my
Mhm.
shelf here, and I have a Child's Play thaw thanks to you.
That's true. You can show
Yeah.
it next week.
Yep. So
I'm looking for where it might be streaming.
Yeah, I wonder it was streaming somewhere back when
It's-
the Chucky show came out, because I
Mhm.
watched the show. I watched them at that point, but I don't know if it's streaming anywhere now.
Well, it's not on Netflix and it's not on Amazon. It's not on HBO.
try
on-
Google.
It's on
what's the-
Tubi.
Maybe. Let's see.
Do I have what?
Tubi. Is it
I
on
have
Tubi?
Tubi. I'm looking
Right,
it up
we all
on my
do.
phone.
Yeah.
Always
see it.
fun.
Yeah,
Huh.
we can find it somewhere. I mean, it might be one we have to rent, but
Yeah. If not, I mean, let me know. We can always.
I
but,
mean, I'll order DVDs off of Amazon and have them here in a couple days
Oh, okay.
if I have to. I'm in this for the long haul. I'm not like Justin,
I'll rent it.
but I can't figure out where to rent it.
So you Amazon Prime, if you have that. Do you
But it
have
didn't
Amazon?
come up.
Amazon's been weird lately because I
It
know
didn't
it's
come
really?
up on the Amazon library at all.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm
Really?
overlooking. I'll look
Amazon's
That's
been
weird.
really weird because like some stuff that I've been trying to find, like it won't show up anymore. It's like,
Oh, I take it back. This time it came up when I typed in child.
oh,
There
okay.
you go.
So you can
What-
rent it. Yeah.
Okay.
It has the 1988 Child's Play, the 1990 Child's Play 2, the
Yep.
1991 Child's Play 3, the 2019 Child's Play.
So
It has Bride of Chucky from 1998.
and Bride of Chucky was definitely a shift in Child's Play.
It was.
But like the
Wonder why I
first
didn't come up with
three
this
are
one.
main like, and I can say this again on the next podcast, but like the first one is like a straight up slasher horror, but then like the second one really started incorporating like the little one liners a little
Yeah.
Yeah.
more. So
You honestly got more personality from Chucky in the
Mhm.
second one. And I do like that. I don't mind the comedy form of Chucky, because all horror ends up that way. It seems like Freddy ended up that way too.
yeah,
You're going to get it. It's because in horror, when this is probably things we should talk about next week, but in horror, you can only do so much. You can only do so much slasher. And you're going to have to come up with new ideas. And eventually, you just need to turn it into a comedy. So I understand it, but I'll talk about it next week.
Yeah.
I digress. I'll talk about
Tune
it
back in, folks.
All right, good stuff.
I told you guys the wrong thing. It wasn't on purpose. Maybe I didn't let it load long enough.
That's like twice tonight that you basically lied to our face. So I don't know what you're doing.
Now, because I'm not a huge slasher fan, I will have much less to say next week. I bet that's not true. I bet I will still have a lot to say.
Do your research. Give us fun facts and stats.
I'll watch the movies. I'll do the IMDb research and play around on YouTube, and that's what I do. I mean, I'm a pastor. What do I do during the week? I just work 30 minutes on Sunday. Maybe 45.
Good stuff. Okay, as always, closing with a quote. And this time it's really relevant to me because I feel like this is kind of me with you guys, So, quote from the Goonies.
This is going to be good.
I feel like I'm babysitting, except I'm not getting paid.
I'm going to hit you so hard.
Good night, everybody. See ya. Thank you so much for tuning into the podcast. We hope that we were able to entertain you at least for a spell. If you see value in our craziness and want to continue supporting us, please follow us on social media. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, like our videos, and share our content with someone you may know. Also, let us know how we're doing. Make suggestions for the podcast. Leave us a comment. Heck, send us an email. Thanks again, and we'll see you next time on the Bottle of Pop Culture podcast.